Coming up on Nebraska Stories, music finds a new home in an unexpected place. Cultivating change one garden at a time. Two no-hitters, 70 years apart, one Nebraska legacy. And the return of the Sandhill Trumpeter Swans. Nestled in the high plains of western Nebraska, along the historic Lincoln Highway, Sutherland is an unassuming town of 1,200 that blends agricultural traditions with modern industry. Main Street is a mix of practical needs and community charm.
Nebraska nice. Just a good spot. Everybody's really friendly. Good people. A lot of hard workers around here too, so you get some real honest people.
Musician Rascal Martinez was born and raised in Sutherland. With cattle, crops, an ethanol plant, and a power station driving the local economy, this might seem an unlikely place to forge a music career.
For the last 10 years, I've been really busy performing all over. I've just been a full-time musician. I play probably over 150 senior center shows like a year. I've been doing that for like 10 years. Private events, a lot of corporate events, you know, backyard party type stuff. I do a lot of weddings. I was down in Tennessee for a long time, just back and forth writing and doing shows. California, New York, and Chicago. I almost moved to Tennessee, but I was gone so much traveling all over. I was like, why would I live here if I'm not gonna be here? So I moved back to Sutherland.
And that's when he found a new way to bring the music world to his tiny pocket of Nebraska.
I was just looking kind of for an office space. And then I saw this place was for sale. So it was built in 1910. It was an old bank, Farmers Bank back in the day. I think it closed like somewhere in the 70s. And it was vacant for a couple of years.
The character of the building is largely preserved, from its original tin ceilings to the worn wooden floors that still bear the impressions of customers and tellers from more than a century ago.
I came in here and right away I was just like, yikes, I gotta have the place. This is just like, this is too good. You keep on drinking. I've always wanted to make my own studio, have a place to rehearse or have bands come in. I don't think people think they can do it in a small town. But with social media and all the things that we have now, just right at our fingertips, I mean, I think anything's possible with that. We record all the shows live, and then I'm just recording everything so that I can mix it all down and master it later. It's 1910, so this is not a brand new $1 million building that, you can't hear any noise. You're gonna hear some stuff for sure, but I think that just gives it, it's warm though.
He calls it Stolen Vault Records.
We do a lot of bigger shows, but then there is something about a small audience of 20, 30 people where people are coming to listen to, what you have to say, and it's just a different thing because you can be in the room. I don't even know ya. I don't even know your name. I don't even know ya anymore. We're bringing in a lot of bands from all over. Got some Colorado bands, a lot of Nebraska bands coming in, a lot of solo artists. If you're coming from Denver and you got to play a show in Omaha, we're right smack in the middle. You could do another show, just that small, intimate show, and you're right there, one-on-one, like with the artist. And no one to turn to anymore.
I don't care if it's an A-list celebrity or a singer-songwriter just starting out doing their own things. This is an incredible way to experience their music.
I love his passion and what he wants to do with this area. And he wants to basically bring more musicians and more bigger musicians out here.
He's putting us on the map for those big city musicians to come here and not only to perform, but to record. It is just amazing what this corner of Sutherland, Nebraska is becoming.
Feeling all right. All right.
In a world where success often means leaving small towns behind, Martinez is proving that sometimes the best path forward is the road that leads back home.
And now I'm in San Quinn, and my bones are on the way.
I've always loved Sutherland. It's my home for sure. Just to be on the spot where I grew up and bringing people to a town they probably never even heard of is just, why wouldn't we do that, you know?
All right, here we go.
I like my life here, and I like, you know, we're raising a family here, and I can still travel and do everything I need to do, but I don't really need to be in the big city to do that.
I haven't seen her in a while, no. I cannot tell you a lie.
I've been an entrepreneur for a long, long time, and you know, I just find my own way of doing things, and then just I believe in what I'm doing. I think that's a huge part.
I haven't seen her in a while. I cannot tell you a lie.
Thank you.
Yeah, these are the right ones. You had these ones?
City Sprouts started in 1995, and it was neighbors getting together and wanting to do something great with this empty space in the Orchard Hill neighborhood. They decided on a garden, and then it's been growing since then, almost 30 years.
It's been something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to learn how to garden. And then I saw, you know, people gardening over here, and so I started getting involved.
Where it's like there's mentorship, so like they'll help you get your garden started.
I think people who don't live in the neighborhood that come here are like, whoa, I had no idea that this space was here, and they're really inspired by that, and maybe this is a part of town that they also haven't explored that much. I feel like it's a big point of pride for the neighborhood. I live in the neighborhood too, so speaking for myself, it's definitely a big point of pride. This garden space is like this common thing that brings everybody together.
So done, because then right when COVID started, so it was like, wait.
I love to, now, you know, I bring my grandkids. It's the most beautiful thing ever when I saw them eating, being taught about a flower that it was edible, and they all tasted it. And they was like, oh, it tastes like kind of like a pepper. So they kind of knew what that was. It showed me that they're open-minded about, you know, being outside, you know, learning things. They've done a lot to better the gardening community. To me, it's still City Sprouts. It feels like home.
It's always felt good to have a garden space where people can come and smell flowers and pick vegetables and all of that.
It's hard to see with the glare, but
Now we've gotten to a point where we're like, we need to really take this seriously and look at the big picture and see where we can continue to grow and share resources and like get our whole city to a place that is everyone's getting fed.
In 2018, moved back to Omaha, moved back home, and kind of helped, bring City Sprouts from what was a little tiny, tenth of an acre garden into what you see behind me here.
Of pride and ownership that you're doing something greater for the community, greater for yourself. You're not really just, it's mine, it's that you're sharing your crops, you're sharing your space, you're sharing your time with other people. The gap between the affordability of healthy food is starting to become a large gap now where some people just have no access to be able to buy the food. Even if they had the ability to go to a store, they just don't have the money for it. And that's even, in some other neighborhoods, that's not even a grocery store.
Looking at food as a justice issue is something that is really near and dear and core to what we do here at City Sprouts. We're not just growing great produce, we're growing great produce for a reason, and that reason is that we believe that everyone in Omaha should have equal access and equitable access to delicious, healthy produce like this.
We're kind of figuring it out and then helping support these other growers. And I think the more people we can get growing food in the city, the better.
By showcasing that you don't need a lot of land to be able to grow food. For example, at our farm, we're able to harvest a little over 10,000 pounds of food, acre and a half-ish, something like that. When they see that, they're like, oh, this can be done at a small scale and this much. It's like, yes, it can. And that's the biggest thing that we want to emphasize about land access is because it is difficult, but if you can have a small piece of land to work on, you can accomplish great things.
So we could not exist and do our jobs without our partners at the food bank or without our partners at Whispering Roots. And so if we didn't have them, we'd just be a bunch of weirdos out here growing kale, right? So anyone that grows on the small scale knows how much time it can take. And so our partnerships have really allowed us to get the knowledge, get the expertise on the distribution side, on the food pantry side that we don't have the time to kind of dig into ourselves, right? We're focused on growing as much food as we can here, and we're so happy to be able to rely on our partners to be able to help fill in the gaps.
They survey the people that are coming to their pantry to find out what they want to eat, and then we communicate with them and we're making sure that we're growing that kind of food. So they're able to distribute local, fresh, healthy produce that's also culturally relevant. That's really huge. Urban agriculture is going to continue to grow. I think there are going to be more people growing food on lots of these empty lots that we have around town.
The faster you put seeds down and the faster you watch them grow, the faster you're gonna learn. And you're gonna realize that seeds have been doing this for millions of years. Plants themselves, they'll do the work for you. As long as you provide them healthy food, a healthy soil, and you water them consistently, they'll do the rest. It's not that difficult. It's almost too easy. Really, I think so.
You dream of it, obviously, you want to dream about doing all that, throwing a perfect game, no hitter, but it's not something that's always on your mind, I would say.
May 1st, 2024, Hawks Field. Nebraska junior left-hander Jackson Brockett takes the mound, just as he has done dozens of times before. But this time, something was different. The morning of the game, Jackson made an offhand comment to his teammates.
It's funny, that morning after we got done working out, I did tell two of my teammates that I was gonna throw a no-hitter. So I guess you could say I kind of called it.
But inning after inning, hit after hit never came.
I think it was after the fifth inning when I came off, is when I first kind of realized that I didn't have any hits. And then the sixth inning, I thought it was for sure my last inning. Because I wasn't even supposed to go 5, 6, let alone. So I thought 6, I got through halfway through the game and gave him everything I could. So I thought 6 was my last inning, and then I come off after the 6, and Coach Schillish was one more, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go the game.
Kicks and deals the 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Jackson Brockett has the first 9-inning no-hitter for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. since 1954, and he did it on his 12th strikeout. The night belongs to 33.
70 years. That's how long it has been since the last 9-inning no-hitter for Nebraska baseball. That last pitcher was Richard Geyer, who threw his no-hitter in 1954 against Kansas, and now he and Brockett are forever linked in Husker history.
After the 7th inning, people got real quiet. No one wanted to talk.
The similarities between them are striking. Both are southpaws. Both are students of business. And now, both share one of the rarest feats in baseball.
A perfect game and a no-hitter 9 is a team thing.
For Brockett, the moment was surreal.
I guess I really didn't understand or know about the whole record thing, but I guess you could say it was a rare moment, probably in the 9th when I went out, the crowd kind of all got up and they were clapping, gave me goosebumps. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was in that moment it kind of really hit me the most that something was going on.
Even in a moment of personal triumph, Brockett knew it wasn't just about him.
I was the last one to leave the field, and I was walking up, and I think it was our trainer was they want you in the locker room. I was like, okay, and then as soon as I opened the door, they were throwing water at me and all that. I think that was the coolest part, just because like I said, I have some of the best teammates, and they always have your back. They're always rooting for you. They're always wanting everyone to do good and just want the best out of everyone. And I think that was the coolest part, was just being able to share it with them.
You were both left-handed.
Couple of lefties, couple of southpaws on there.
That says it all. Right?
Yeah.
You had it going for you that day.
For sure, yeah.
That's the way it was with me. The curveball was working.
You know, for sure.
It doesn't happen every day.
No, it doesn't.
Richard Geyer in 1954, Jackson Brockett in 2024. Two names, one legacy, forever part of Nebraska baseball history.
Good luck. You're in for it now, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
The trumpeter swan is a really neat success story.
They went extinct in the Sandhills.
Trumpeter swans are really good indicator species of the habitat quality.
They're a big, beautiful white bird that is an icon of the Nebraska Sandhills.
The Sandhills is still one of the last remaining intact grasslands left in the world.
This is probably one of the few places where private industry, private ranchers have improved the land.
I hope that I always get to make my life here in the Sandhills.
They're huge and they're heavenly white. A trumpeter swan actually is the largest waterfowl species in the world, and they're beautiful. They're birds that are indicators of good water quality. They need big open grasslands and wetlands and open bodies of water in order to thrive.
We really don't know a lot about them, about their behavior. It's really fun to learn about them. My name is Heather Johnson, and I'm researching trumpeter swans in the Nebraska Sandhills at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. I'm also a wildlife biologist with Nebraska Game and Parks, studying waterfowl. So historically, trumpeter swans breeding range all the way up in Alaska and the boreal forest, and then the Sandhills was the very south tip of that breeding range. And populations were upwards, probably about 500,000 to 1 million. The fur trade industry played a large role in the depletion of the population of trumpeter swans. Their down feathers on their belly was very desired for women's powder puffs. The feathers were desired for clothing and hats and quill pens. In fact, Audubon himself preferred a quill pen for his drawings. The Migratory Bird Treaty Act is what saved these birds in 1918. Had that treaty been not put into place, we would not have trumpeter swans today.
Nebraska sandhills was a core of their range, and they were wiped out of the sandhills, wiped out in Nebraska, and then through conservation laws and a lot of conservation efforts over the last 100 years, trumpeter swans have started to come back.
You make that look easy.
I didn't know you had one.
Oh, yeah.
We take an airboat out. We run up next to these birds and gently scoop them up with a big old scoop net. And then we bring them back. And then we collect what we call body condition data. And that's how you can determine how healthy a bird is. And over the last 3 years, we've been putting on GPS satellite collars. So we've been tracking these swans, and we're looking where they're going in the winter.
Let's take her back down there. We're trying to get a handle on the population numbers, and not necessarily just the numbers, but the trends, if they're going up or going down. And what we have been seeing actually over the years is we've seen an increasing population. So the overall number of swans has increased, but the proportion of juveniles is kind of slightly decreasing.
There's a lot of opportunity for predators to get a hold of these birds. Some predators would include northern pike, snapping turtles, birds of prey. Those are kind of their main predators. And then there's also, weather, many other factors that can affect survival.
Well, one of the things that we're anticipating or could anticipate, wind energies, and one of those things that may be cropping up in the sandhills, and it has in one or two spots. And with that, you have a lot of transmission lines and so forth, and some of those things may be cutting across some of the wintering areas that these birds use. And so what would that do for those swans?
Where you put those transmission lines are really important, because if you put them next to a key wintering ground, these birds didn't evolve with big, long, thick wires spanning across the sky, so that can be a death trap.
First time I saw a trumpeter swan was probably in the late 60s at La Creek up there north of Merriman. My name's A.B. Cox, and I live on Calf Creek Ranch. This is Calf Creek, north of Mullen, Nebraska, in southern Cherry County.
I'm Shelly Kelly. I grew up by Brewster, Nebraska on a ranch, family operation. and just always loved the Sandhills. The trumpeter swan is kind of a iconic species because it sticks out so much. People pay attention to the swans, and even ranchers that have lived here their whole lives, like myself, when we see a trumpeter swan, it's really exciting. What we do know is if we have a healthy landscape, we know that it's better for the swans. It's not a competing interest. You know, wildlife and ranching, they're not on different hands. They share the same goals.
Most ranchers have been real good stewards of this landscape because they need good grass too. You know, in a way, they're grass farmers.
We just see it as we are trying to be good stewards and leave it as best we can.
I care about these birds because they're remarkable. I think about what would the world look like if they weren't in it. You know, to me it'd be a pretty boring place. It's a real conservation success story. That's because of an awful lot of people that are dedicated their lives and their efforts to help bring these birds back. So it's a pretty cool deal, but there's no finish line in conservation, and so we have to keep thinking about these birds and what they represent, and really celebrate them so we can have them around for a long time.
Watch more Nebraska Stories on our website, Facebook, and YouTube. Nebraska Stories is funded in part by the Margaret and Martha Thomas Foundation and the Bill Harris and Mary Sue Hormel Harris Fund for the presentation of cultural programming.